back today, so.
Call the meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the September 4th, 2018 Post Falls City Council meeting. Shannon, please note that all council members are present. Under announcements, we have a couple. The final movie event of the summer will be this Saturday, September 8th at Sportsman's Park, weather permitting. Coco will be playing on the big screen and the movie starts at dusk. Thanks to Blue Dog RV for sponsoring this great event. The September 11th Planning and Zoning meeting has been canceled due to a lack of agenda items. The next meeting will be October 9th. The Boys and Girls Club of Kootenai County is hosting their 12th annual Night in Black and White auction and dinner on Saturday, September 15th at the Coeur d'Alene Resort. The evening includes live and silent auctions, drinks, dinners, dancing, and more. All proceeds go directly to local clubs. Contact the Boys and Girls Club for more information and tickets. Also like to announce that there are 4 public hearings tonight. Anybody wishing to testify, there are forms on the dais in the back. Please fill them out and turn them into Shannon, our clerk. And the way the public hearing works, we'll open the public hearing, we'll hear staff presentation, we'll listen to the proponent, we take public comment, we allow the proponent a rebuttal period, we close the public hearing, and council deliberates. So just so everybody knows how we operate. Before we start, Mr. Walker, Brian Walker, Coeur d'Alene Press. 2 weeks ago, we had a meeting on budget. I made a comment that I was surprised you weren't here because you had asked so many questions on the budget. I've talked with Brian, I've talked with his editor, Mike Patrick, and I've apologized, but I want to do it publicly. Brian was on his way to the city council meeting when another little issue kind of took his attention. It's called a big fire on the prairie. So Brian, I apologize for that comment, appreciate what you do and the fact that you do provide good coverage for the city of Post Falls. And you did make the right decision. A fire is much bigger news than Post Falls not taking a tax increase again. So just to let you know.
I don't know about that.
Well, that's kind of old hat right now. But are there any amendments to the agenda tonight?
We have none tonight, sir.
Any conflicts of interest?
Nope.
Would you please present the consent calendar?
Item A is minutes from the August 21st, 2018 City Council meeting. Item B is payables August 14th through August 27th, 2018. Item C is the auditing contract with Anderson Brothers, CPAs. Item D is cash and investment report for July 2018. Item E is contract with Land Expressions for Syringa Park splash pad installation, concrete flat, and site restoration. Item F is contract with Terra landscaping for Tullamore Park landscape planting. Item G is Cottages at Tullamore Phase A Subdivision Plat application. Item H is Hollen Acres Subdivision Construction Improvement Agreement. Item I is Pioneer Acres Subdivision Construction Improvement Agreement. Item J is Woodbridge South Second Edition Subdivision Construction Improvement Agreement. Item K is Montrose 10th Edition Construction Improvement Agreement. And item L is receiving resolution from the Planning Commission recommending establishing a new urban renewal district at the proposed tech park. Item M is Memorandum of Understanding with the Post Falls Urban Renewal Agency regarding upgrades to future 12th Avenue lift station and EQ basin. And item N is Tullamore 7th Edition Subdivision Plat application.
Any questions on the consent calendar? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion.
Move to accept the consent calendar as presented.
Second.
Motion seconds. Further discussion? Shannon, please take the roll.
Wilhelm.
Aye.
Borders.
Aye.
Anthony.
Aye.
Malloy.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Thorson.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next up, public hearings. The first public hearing tonight is on the, I'll probably mispronounce it, Grossglauser annexation file. And with that, I will open the public hearing. Lindsay.
Waiting for technology to catch up.
While we're waiting for that, I will state, if anyone is testifying, please keep your eye on the clock. The iPad up here's got a clock with your allotted time, just so you're aware and don't get cut short.
Okay, good evening, Mayor Jacobson, council members. Lindsay King, Planning Department for the Grossglauser annexation. Nathaniel Grossglauser is the owner. Ace Solutions, the applicant for file ANNX-0006-2018. City Council is being asked to review the annexation request of approximately 4.67 acres and make a decision for approval or denial of the proposed medium-density multifamily residential R2 zoning designation. On July 10th, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended the zoning designation being R1 single-family residential. Here in the hatched areas, McGuire is the parcel in question. Down here is Saltese. Apologize, it's kind of a little hard to read right there with that county pocket line. The surrounding zones are currently Kootenai County, and then to the east you have the gray area, which is industrial, which is a mix between residential and industrial. It's the part of the Montrose PUD, and you have to the north R1 single-family residential in the yellow, and to the south you have some red, which is our community commercial services, and then a small dark gray patch, which is our heavy industrial, which is kind of a legacy zone. Again, the property is located on North McGuire and West Echo. It's just north of West Echo, actually. Residential uses in the Kootenai County agricultural zoning area. No significant topology or vegetation. The site is currently vacant. Water is provided by East Green Acres Irrigation District, and sewer would be provided by the City of Post Falls upon annexation. So part of the annexation is going over the comprehensive plan analysis and taking out key points that will help, that will make sure that this parcel being annexed into the city blends well with the City of Post Falls. I have an extensive analysis in the staff report. It's Exhibit S4, but I'm just taking out some key points here. So zoning of the land to be annexed must comply with the City of Post Falls comprehensive plan and other master plans and facility plans. In the planning and zoning hearing, as well as in your staff report, we went over our transportation master plan, our future land use, and other facility plans which are in there, and this project does match up with that. The second one being the timing of the annexation should be coordinated with opportunities for orderly development of public systems, both policies addressed by the comprehensive plan and recommendations addressed by the master plans for water, sewer, transportation, parks, and emergency services. Water is provided by East Green Acres Irrigation. Sewer would be a logical extension from the city. Transportation, East McGuire is a minor arterial which connects to Saltese or north to Highway 53. So there's a good match there. Parks would be there would be a good connection for pedestrian facilities upon development. They'll continue sidewalks and swells and things like that, and there are parks nearby. Number 3, or third bullet point, throughout the community, a range of housing types and price levels should be provided to accommodate diverse ages and incomes and provide effective and affordable housing. Right now, across the street, east of McGuire, you have senior housing and apartments. You also have the Montrose development. To the west, you have in the county a mobile home park, and to the south, you have some commercial development there. So by having this R2 medium density, you're allowing not only for just single family, but maybe a little bit of a higher density, maybe some smaller lots for people so they can have something that's not a large, half-acre lots. Makes it a little bit more affordable. Fourth bullet point that I wanted to point out is owners seeking annexation should grant and provide necessary rights-of-way and easements in accordance with the city transportation master plan and utility master plans that may be required. So upon development and annexation, there will be rights-of-way granted to the city for future extension of McGuire. So upon that westerly side, if more properties choose to annex, we'll have some sort of connection which will provide safer roadways for not just cars but pedestrians as well, so that we're creating more of a neighborhood feel there. Future land use map, as I spoke of earlier, is here. In the yellow, it is residential, does not delineate whether it's single family or multifamily. In the purple, it's industrial, as we looked at on the previous zoning map there, that's part of that Montrose area that has some of those industrial uses like Orgill on the easterly side there. And then the red is our community commercial services. We have 6 zone change criteria, which we went through at the planning and zoning hearing. The first, that it's consistent with the future land use map. Oops. Here, it would be meaning that it is in a residentially future zone area. 2, it's consistent with the goals and policies found within the comprehensive plan, which we went over in the comprehensive plan analysis as your exhibit S4. 3, zoning is assigned following consideration of such items such as street classifications, traffic patterns, existing development, future land uses. As I said earlier, McGuire is a minor arterial, so that would be compatible with that. Your traffic patterns, McGuire is a busy road that does connect to the highway up north and to Southeast, which will eventually connect to I-90. Your existing development to the east, you do have your apartments and your senior facilities, your single-family residential homes, and your industrial uses. To the south, you have some commercial along that Southeast corridor. So there needs to be a good break of, commercial to single-family, and the R2 medium density zone is a good break for that. And then your future land uses, which again we went through as residential. The 4th is commercial and high density residential zoning is typically assigned along streets with higher road classifications. So the minor arterial being McGuire would meet this higher road classification, although it's not a major arterial or a state highway like Highway 41, but it is a little bit of a higher road classification. And we're not asking for commercial, so that's not applicable here. The 5th one, limited or neighborhood commercial and lower density residential zoning, typically assigned for properties as they proceed farther away from the higher intensity urban activities. So Southeast is a very diverse road, as it has some commercial, some residential, but it's not solely just designated for residential, as McGuire is not, as you can, with the Montrose industrial uses on that east side there. And then the last criteria being for industrial zoning, which is not applicable as we're not asking for industrial zoning. These were the agencies routed for this specific annexation. We received comments from Kootenai County Fire and Rescue and Post Falls Police Department, who were neutral. And I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions of Lindsay at this point?
Just one quick, so the land is vacant right now? There's no
Correct.
dwellings on it or anything on that?
The land is vacant, correct.
Thank you. Opponent wish to speak? Name for the record, please, and again, if you'd keep your eye on the clock.
Hello, thank you. I'm Roger Glessner. I'm with ACE Solutions. We represent the landowner in this application. We're at 609 North Calgary Court here in Post Falls, Idaho. And just a little bit about me. I've lived in this area all but 2 years of my life. So I'm very familiar with what has gone on around here since the early 60s and how development has taken place. As well, I've also worked in engineering, surveying, and planning for the last 20 years in this area. Thank you, staff, for the thorough report on that. It seems hard to argue that because it seems like it's a very, very well-made case for R2 zoning, possibly even R3 zoning. As it was pointed out, the properties to the west of the, here, actually, let me get a picture here. This is the property here, and it's about 1,700 feet off of Celtice on McGuire. And McGuire is a minor arterial as it is now, and I imagine it always will be, maybe even a higher density travel than that. It is also a secondary truck route. Now, right now, on the east side of McGuire in here, this is all industrial zone with an overlay, a PUD overlay, and for high-density residential that's been, I believe it's been in place for quite a while. And just above that is also residential zoning that is current with a PUD overlay on that as well. We would be coming in to this property right across from Okanagan Avenue. That's where we would gain some of the city sewer and some of the other facilities from the city. We're also aware that we would be dedicating some right-of-way along McGuire for needed improvements there. In looking around the area and studying what has been going on around here for quite a few years, most of the interior properties within the city right now, especially the larger parcels, have already been bought up by developers. And some of those are being built on right now. Some of them have already, met their maximum, and some of them are sitting for who knows how long. So what we've been seeing that's been coming in recently is more fringe type properties that are coming in that are asking to be annexed and or developed within the city. And so we think that that's kind of a trend that we're going to see more and more of, because we've almost met the boundaries of the city as far as developable or purchasable properties. As it was mentioned, we do have water along the front of the property. It's supplied by East Green Acres. And then the sewer, we could take a city extension on the sewer from Okanagan Street right across from the entrance of this proposed subdivision. And so along with that, I think that it's kind of a natural progression for planning. As you look at the west side of McGuire, down at McGuire, there is a storage unit there that is currently in Kootenai County that is commercial. And so the natural progression from that would be a buffer of probably multifamily, maybe R3, and then R2, and so on. And then as you move away west of McGuire, off of McGuire is where you would more than likely see the R1 residential development come into play. Right now, I think that the owners would be acceptable to the R1 development, but really it seems to make better sense and better planning if it is an R2 or higher density, because of the fact that it does front McGuire, and McGuire is a minor artillery and a secondary truck route, and it's probably always will be. Do you have any questions?
Any questions? Al?
Question. Setting aside the question about what the zoning should be, with all the vacant land that we already have within the boundaries of Post Falls and all the land that's currently undeveloped, what would be a compelling reason for us to enlarge our city by 5 more acres?
Yeah, I think that just as I stated, developers have already bought up all those properties, and there are quite a few Kootenai County islands within the city. Most of them have already been purchased by the larger developers. And so other developers that want to actually do something right now, rather than just sit on it and bring it on at some other time, they have no other choice but to work around the fringe. And so it's just like the property right across the street, the Montrose development. When will that come online? That's been sitting for a long time. And as the growth continues in the city of Post Falls, there's still a lot of opportunities for smaller developers to pick up some of these fringe properties and develop them. And so that's kind of the way that we see what's happening right now, is the larger developers are bringing on some properties, but they're also sitting on a lot of them. And so there still seems to be a need for housing and commercial and industrial and everything within the city. And so we see this as a good opportunity for a smaller developer to be able to bring a product into the city.
Okay.
Thank you. Shannon? Wishing to testify in opposition, is it Deb Vachi? Voca? If there's a way I can butcher a name, I will. I apologize. Name for the record, please.
Debbie Vaca. I live in this neighborhood, and I don't see where McGuire is ever used by trucks. They use Pleasant View. McGuire is a single-lane road, no stops. There's a railroad that crosses it quite often, so most people aren't going to want to be taking it unless they have to. And I would just say that the R1 would be probably more appropriate to what's already in the area. The R2 is just going to add more traffic, and there's still plenty of land to develop around here, and there's already a lot of homes that are medium density for people that want that. Our neighborhood is for people that want to have the land around them, and that's why we live there. So I don't agree with it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, wishing to testify in opposition, Kathy Bleisner? Bleisner? I'm 2 for 2.
You're doing better than I would.
Thank you for listening to me. My name is Kathy Bleisner. I live on Echo Drive. Total opposition of this. I have a few things that I'd like to state, more like questions. I feel that this is a conflict of interest for Linda Wilhelm. I have been told by numerous people that her family owns the property just north of this property, and they would like to see that brought into the city so that they can bring theirs in.
Let's stop right there and ask the question.
Okay.
That used to be Bob and Donna Lou Wilhelm's property. They're dead. To my knowledge, that was my grandfather's brother, for one thing, so it's not like they're close relatives of mine. That being said, I believe that their estate did sell that property. If they didn't, I wouldn't know either way, but I have heard that they did.
Okay.
So I don't have a conflict of interest out there.
Okay. Well, we've been notified by several people that you and your brother are part of owners of that.
That's not my brother. He is his
Bobby
dad,
is not your brother?
His dad was my grandfather's brother.
Okay.
So I think that makes him like my
Great uncle.
cousin-in-law, something like that.
Okay.
Misinformation can be dangerous.
So,
but I
Yes.
want to address it.
yeah.
Well, and I wanted to address it and make sure that it was straight. There hasn't, to my knowledge, been a traffic study done down on McGuire Road. It is a heavily traveled road. Echo and Midtown both get the overflow off of McGuire when the signal light is red and there's several cars backed up there. We have a problem with people speeding down our road. Recently, we had a cat ran over out in the road. Granted, he shouldn't have been out in the road, but he was. And people come down that road now crazy. If you add an R2, R3, or even an R1 there, it's going to double or triple the traffic that we have on our road. With all the property that's in the city now that's not developed, we feel that this little section is not necessary. We're all agriculture to the west of that area there. My husband and I have cows on there, and we've worked hard to keep our property up, and we're in total opposition to this. And we would really appreciate you denying the request to bring it into the city.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Next up, wishing to testify in opposition is Wayne, I'm going to say Plant. Is that right? 1 out of 3.
Get that.
Here we are again. I did a little ride around Post Falls here lately and
Excuse
checking
me,
on.
just, I announced your name, but would you please give us your name?
Oh, yeah. My name's Wayne Plant. I live at 2447 West Echo Drive, which is just south of the property. And like I said, I was doing a little research around to see what was going on as far as billing and its effect on Post Falls. And the sewer, I just don't understand how it's going to handle everything. Rathdrum just brought 112 acres in. They're going to build 3,000 homes on it. And what they've already built out there, I rode out there on Myers Road, it's unbelievable how much it's filled up. And with the development along Greens Ferry and all those places coming in, and Montrose, you know, they've built 48 homes since spring, right in back of the apartments. According to a newspaper article I read, right now there is 60 homes a month being built in Post Falls. And if you think McGuire is a minor highway anymore, you got another thing coming. I mean, it is busy. And they're all doing 50 miles an hour down through there. And I very seldom see the sheriff or the local police. Once in a while I'll see one of your guys go through, but nobody sets up a traffic thing there or anything else. And I don't know what the city's thinking about on the infrastructure of this stuff. Where that property is now, if they make an exit right across from the road that exists from the apartments, that's right along my fence line. And how they're going to run it in through those homes, I don't know. I asked the building and zoning, how many houses can you put on an acre or 5 acres? They couldn't give me an answer. They said R2 is pretty loose. You know, we'll pass it and we'll see what we're going to do with it. Well, I don't agree with that. I'd like some hard facts as to what exactly they're going to do on that apartment. Nate come by my house when he bought the property, him and his dad, and introduced himself. And I asked him, I says, what are you going to do with that property? He says, well, I'm going to build a home on it. And then all of a sudden I seen this annexation coming up, and I thought at the time, you know, the only reason they're annexing into the city is because they need that sewer to put multiple homes and stuff in there. They're developers, is what they are, you know, and they have a right to do that, of course, but I'd still like to know how many homes you could put in there on 5 acres, or 4.6. That's what mine is too, because you lose the right-of-way on McGuire. I live in that stone house. And when Gary Cook was on the Highway Commission years ago, I don't know who's on there now, and I asked him, I said, what are you going to do with McGuire? And he said, well, we're just going to 3-lane. That'll be a turn lane in the middle. And he says, we have no plans for expanding it. Well, now that Post Falls has annexed it, this changes the whole thing. There's 25 foot of right-of-way from the center of the road either direction. And that 25 foot goes right in the middle of my living room. So, of course, I'm totally against this annexation of the thing, you know. It's just going to cause a lot more problems, and you got the whole prairie to work on. Okay.
Time's up. Thank you. Warren, can we answer the question on R2 zoning? Is it up to 12, 18? What is that?
So I'll defer that to planning, but my understanding is it depends on the product type. The densities are different depending on what the actual proposal is, so I'm not sure that we can give a hard and fast answer, but Lindsay could better answer that.
It's a maximum of 12 units per acre, right?
Again, I think it depends on the product type.
Said something about 18.
Lindsay or John, why don't you answer that question?
So I have our land, official bulk and placement regulations out of our code. And because we don't know what the applicant is planning to do for the future of this product, it's really just kind of a general idea. This is what they have to do. Now, mind you, the densities could be different based on the amount of right-of-way that they have to give the city, the width of the roads, the width of the sidewalks and the grass swales and things like that. So it usually ends up being a lot less lots, but this is what we have here. So as you can see, you have the R2, oh, sorry, probably can't hear me now. You have the R2 zones here, and this is for single family, duplex, other multifamily, and then twin homes. And over here is the density per acre. So the single family is 5 units per acre. It usually ends up being around 4 with all of those right-of-ways and roads and such. And then you can do 12 units per acre for duplexes. And and then 12 units per acre for your other multifamily, and then up to 18 units per acre with the twin home design. Now, we don't see a lot of twin home designs within the city of Post Falls. It's usually duplexes or some other sort of multifamily, maybe a triplex or something like that.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Yeah, you betcha.
Next up, wishing to speak in opposition is Scott Borick.
How y'all doing tonight?
Good, thank you.
My name is Scott Warwick. I'm going to speak in opposition. I've owned property next to Echo for the last 15 years on Echo Drive. And what I don't get on this whole shoot match is how the city can handle the extra services. We're having a hard time right now. I personally live in the city limits on right by the new middle school, and traffic's out of control. We can't even handle what we got. Drive down Celtice, past the sewer plant, you better hold your breath. It can't handle the sewer we're getting. I mean, it just reeks. And I understand these are all different issues, but what is the plan for the city if we annex in here and we annex in here? We don't have enough police officers. The Park and Rec can't handle what they need to handle. We don't have the facilities in place, the schools, everything to handle a new housing development. You know, changing this around. I understand it's part of growth, but also part of growth is the infrastructure. And I just ask each and every one of you to look inside and ask yourself, what kind of job are you doing personally to guarantee that Post Falls has a bright future as far as that infrastructure goes? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Wilson, I have a question. We have it was handed to me late, but it was wishing to speak in favor. Robert Grossglauser, is that okay to take public comment, or is he considered applicant?
So I'm assuming that he's the applicant, but I'm not positive about that. I don't know Mr. Grossglauser. Excuse me. So they could speak during rebuttal as part of their time for rebuttal. Excuse me.
Is it okay if we listen to him?
If you take them out of order, you would essentially allow the rest of the folks who have testified in opposition to come back and speak in rebuttal.
Okay.
They'd be limited to just rebutting anything that he says. They couldn't have new testimony, but you would essentially have to offer up to all of them a chance to rebut anything new that comes in.
All right to do it during rebuttal?
I don't have any ownership in this property, so what does that have to do?
Because it was opposition, it was in favor first, neutral second, opposition third.
I mistakenly did that.
That's us then.
So then he would be allowed to testify, and then if he introduces anything new into the record, there's a new fact or new something that comes in,
Okay.
then other folks who have already testified in opposition would get a limited chance to come back and speak to just that new element.
So we're going to have you come up and speak, and then those of you who have testified understand you will have an opportunity, but it would only be to address anything new that he has brought forward. Okay? Please come forward and give your name. Apologize for the inconvenience or the confusion. That was
Yeah,
our-
well, my name's Robert Grossglauser. I'm the father of Nate, have no ownership in this property. I lived in Post Falls for 17 years, just sold my home in July of this year on Carrollwood Court, which I lived in 17 years. When I bought that property, I was out in the boonies, there was no one around me. So I understand growth and I understand how it affects you individually. The problem I'm running into is people who, I buy land, and when I buy land, I do my due diligence. I go to the city, I ask the staff, what's acceptable there? I look at your comp plan, what's acceptable? So based on all that stuff, I'm here because I'm in favor of it, because I'm in favor of following the comp plan, following what the city staff recommends. Other than that, how would we have any idea to buy any land in the future? I think one of the city councilmen asked, why would we want to annex 5 acres? Well, it's in your ACI. Your area of city impact wanted to take a lot more than 5 acres. So how does the consumer who buys property know what to use with the property if he can't go off the comprehensive plan? So I went through your comprehensive plan today. And this is what it says. The comp plan is an official policy guide for the future. Okay, that's one statement. The comprehensive plan is a document through which the city of Post Falls envisions future land development and redevelopment and how it should be managed. The policy under the comp plan is to clarify and articulate public policies and the intentions of the city of Post Falls with respect to the right and expectations of the general public. The comprehensive plan provides city leaders and citizens with technical data to make those decisions. The comprehensive plan regarding future land use gives us a current vision for the mix of future land use. The comprehensive plan is a community document which everyone has access to, which through its goals and policies provides a desired recipe for the future. Okay? It's the official policy guide. It is the backbone for planning and establishing regulations. We already heard staff say that it complies with all the requirements. So that's not an issue. We've already heard staff say that higher density is the best fit because you got industrial across the street and you got large apartments across the street, and generally you want a buffer. So it meets all the requirements. I've heard people say that the traffic on McGuire is really heavy. The last gentleman said, well, this is all the more reason that proper planning be afforded. And we got 300 acres that's going to be developed, thereby I think Schneider owns those properties, so the traffic's going to get worse. So having the right zoning there is going to enhance the community. R1, in my opinion, will detract. And I think it's in your staff as well. So my comment is, I am not a land expert. I can only read the comp plan. I can only visualize what the staff says. I can only go by those recommendations. But ultimately, we have to have a tool upon which we follow. And I can't see anywhere with staff's recommendations in the comp plan this doesn't fit Post Falls' vision for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wilson, Mr. Grossglauser talked about 3 main things: comp plan, density and buffer, and traffic, and all 3 of those were addressed before.
Yes, so they would have a chance, if he said something new about one of those topics, to come back and speak to what he said.
Was there anything said that was new?
He enumerated policies in the comp plan. That's probably new. I think the rest of it was probably what you heard from the staff.
Anyone who testified, did you hear anything new? Again, I think you referenced 3 things that were the main topic of discussion that those who testified.
They want to testify.
No, we're fine. If nobody wants to come back, then we move on to that.
You can all hear me. I would say.
We got to have you up here so the microphone can pick you up.
I totally agree with you.
Excuse me, sir.
Exactly right.
Excuse me. We need to have.
My name's Scott Borick. I'm a resident of Post Falls, and I agree with this gentleman. Okay, but I also agreed you got the money. Do you have the budget to improve McGuire? Do you have the budget in place to pay for all these improvements? Does the city have the budget? That's one thing they don't want to talk about is the budget of who's paying for that. Well, the taxpayers are paying for it, if I'm not mistaken. That's all I have to say is he's correct. We do have a plan. We're supposed to follow it. But if we can't afford it, you can't afford it. Thank you.
One more. Name again for the record, please.
My name is Debbie Vaca, and in reference to the plan for the city, this land is in the county, so I'm not sure, does that make a difference?
Future land use. City has
Future land use.
Future land use.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it goes to wherever it wants, it applies to wherever?
If it's annexed in, that would be.
If it's
yeah.
annexed in, okay. And he mentioned something about this plan, talking about a mix of land use. So, again, that would support having land that is not overdeveloped. So keeping some agricultural in the city, which I believe makes it a very desirable place to live, so thank you.
Hi, my name is Kathy Bleasner. When was the comprehensive plan changed? Was it changed within the last year?
Mr. Manley?
The current comp plan that we have is updated in 2010. The previous version, I believe, was 2002, so.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you. You okay, Mr. Planty? Mr. Plant?
Yeah, my name is Wayne Plant again, and I don't see how it's a fit right now, because it's just a finger on that side. You know, when we talked to the building and zoning, you know, they said, it's coming, we're gonna do it now.
But wait just a minute, that's
Yeah,
not new.
You're starting to get outside the realm of what he spoke about.
He spoke about the comprehensive plan.
Oh.
Yeah, so you can only address what he spoke about.
Yeah. Well, I read the comprehensive plan too, and in my opinion, it's fairly sketchy. Needs to be done again. You know, I mean, with the amount of growth we got going on in the area, a lot of attention to it. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you. Rebuttal.
Yes, Roger Glessner, A Solutions. Well, we believe that the annexation with the zoning of R2 is compatible with this area, and it is compatible with the comprehensive plan and any of the future planning that the city has done. You know, again, if you take a look at what has happened on the east side of the road and the type of development that is going in there, or that is proposed to go in there, this is R2 would be a more compatible fit with that, especially along the arterial street that McGuire is. So we believe that that is a compatible fit with this property and with this annexation request. Also, I got permission from two of the landowners that are just north of this property to go ahead and mention their plans and their names. One of them is Steve Cassell. He owns 4.85 acres just north of this property. It's an interior one. It's not right on McGuire. It's the next lot in. And then Dina Herbert has 4.49 acres, and hers fronts McGuire Road also. And they do plan on coming in and asking for annexation. And I'm not sure what their zoning designation is, but I believe Dina is going to seek a R2 out on McGuire Road. Now, those people they're planning on doing these types of developments with this property that they already own because of the comprehensive plan and some of the guidance that the city of Post Falls offers out there on your website. You guys have done extensive planning as far as the extension of water, sewer facilities, some of the traffic studies that were done, and what's projected in the future, and the type of development and where it should go. And so we believe that this annexation request is compatible with R2. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Out of this gentleman.
Linda?
I have something to say, not to you. If the person's name is Dina, that is just to the north of this parcel, she would be Bob Wilhelm's daughter. So I didn't know that. I mean, I don't have a close relationship with those people. So I just want you to know that her maiden name is the same as mine.
Perfect, and you wouldn't have a conflict regardless, because under Idaho code, a conflict is when you have a financial stake in the outcome of the decision. Here, this application, you've indicated you have no stake in the outcome, you're not related to the current owner.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yes, one more thing too, the development does pay for itself. I don't believe that there'll be any city monies that'll come into this development to help make this development happen. I believe that there will be a requirement from the city to do some street front improvements along with right-of-way dedications and easements, and then anything off-site that's on the private property will all be handled by the developer as well. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I'll close the public hearing. Council, it's up to you. Al?
I have a question for the planning department. Sure. Can I get them back up there? Planning. We did create, or we have some annexation criteria
Yes.
in place. Can you kind of go over some of that? Because I guess that's where I'm hung up on, is more about the annexation, not so much about the zoning at this point in time.
So we have our annexation policies within our comprehensive plan. The way that it works is planning and zoning recommends the zone. So we have our 6 zone change criteria that we follow along with. And then one of those 6 is the comprehensive plan and the future land use. So we essentially use these 2 different criterias to create the decision for annexation. And so the Exhibit S4, so our comprehensive plan analysis, goes over those goals and policies from our comprehensive plan for the annexation.
Yeah, okay, I got that part, but when we talked about this before, I mean, there were some goals and things, one of them being that the land be contiguous. Yeah, that one. With our existing city limits.
Correct.
Where in this case, we are on one side.
Right.
Were there
It's still
some
essentially contiguous with the city limits because it's connecting from the west side of McGuire.
Were there any other goals there in terms of when we should or should not annex a property into the city? I mean, I'm looking here at the staff report, and there's several where it talks about shouldn't have an impact on our existing infrastructure, which I heard a lot of people say it would have an impact, staff saying it really wouldn't have an impact. But there are some issues about connectivity to the city and things of that nature. I guess where I'm looking at is, I'm not really too thrilled about this annexation idea. I think the city's big enough as it is right now, but I don't know where I would stick my finger in here and say I don't want to annex this property.
So the parcel is located within our area of city impact, and it also is encompassed within our future land use zone. So this area is designated to be in the city. Now, I don't have a specific timeline for you, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I guess so, but the one gentleman brought up that, because it's within our area of city impact, that we could annex it. But we've already decided as a city that we're not just going to grab a piece of property anywhere within that ACI and allow it to be annexed. It's got to be connected.
Right. If it meets our zoning criteria for the specific zone that they're requesting, and if it is compatible with our goals and policies found with our comprehensive plan, staff sees no reason why it should not be annexed in. I don't really know how to answer the rest of that question for you. I'm sorry.
Fine.
Councilor
Do you have
Wolf.
anything you can add?
Go ahead. If I might, Councilor Wolf.
Yes.
Under Idaho State Code, in order to be eligible for annexation, the property has to be adjacent or contiguous to city limits.
Okay.
Roads don't break that connection.
Right.
So it meets the statutory requirement for whether or not it qualifies to be annexed into the city. The question on whether or not it should be annexed, that lies with the city council ultimately. That's a discretionary determination made by the city council. You've adopted some policy statements in your comprehensive plan to help you guide that decision, but it's really a discretionary determination. The zoning piece of it, that's quasi-judicial, and then you're following the adopted criteria on whether or not it meets those criteria.
Right, okay.
But the annexation itself is a discretionary determination.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that clarification.
Steve?
I had a question. I think in Mr. Plant's testimony, he mentioned that if McGuire was widened, it would go through his house, but would it have to be widened through his property, or that wouldn't be widened until he would ask for annexation into the city, or how would that work?
So John Manley, Planning Manager here at the city. The project being developed would do the dedication of the right-of-way and the improvements for their piece. Engineering would be coordinating that with the applicants of being developed. Adjacent properties would be, there'd be some transition there, but wouldn't be modified until such time they either chose to annex or develop themselves.
Okay.
Carrie?
Did you have something?
Joe?
So the comprehensive map and future land use planning, all that sort of stuff, that really is all for us and for the staff. People are coming to this area, they're going to continue coming, and so for us to be able to plan for proper infrastructure, resources, et cetera, that's what that's for. So by the infamous now prediction that Post Falls will exceed 90,000 people by 2035, those are kind of important things we need to know and plan for because they're coming. An ancillary, perhaps, side effect of that is that potential investors will look at that and say, hey, this is going to develop at some point. I want to take advantage of this, buy this county property now. And it can't be assumed that the city will annex it when anybody wants to. That is at our discretion. That's the future land use. When the future is kind of up in the air. So I just wanted to clarify that process. Yes, the additional infrastructure and so forth for the sewer, roads, and so forth is being planned for and budgeted for. That's the whole purpose of those comprehensive plans, future land use maps, et cetera. Yes, eventually that probably will be annexed into the city at some point, whether that's today or next year or 10 years from now, is up to the people who are elected to make that decision. So I just wanted to clarify that process for both sides of the argument.
Okay. Linda?
I would like, if we could, for the future land use map to be put up on the screen for the public. And then I have a couple of other comments. Going up McGuire Road on the east side where Montrose is a PUD. So since it's a PUD, it's not necessarily right across the street going to be an industrial user there. Where we were talking about coming off of Celtice, and it keeps being stated that that's going to be an industrial use, just south of where you're pointing right now.
Here.
Yeah, because there was other parts down further towards Celtice with Montrose that was going to be commercial, that's not going to be commercial either. So that PUD can change, number one. That's sort of a living document. Am I correct, legal counsel? Am I right?
So a PUD vests rights in the developer to develop consistent with the planned unit development. In some of our areas where we have planned unit developments, the underlying zoning doesn't necessarily match what they're approved to develop. For instance, I think we have some areas here that are, the zoning would indicate industrial, but the PUD would indicate that it's likely going to be multifamily. That's what it's approved for.
Okay. So that being said, and then one more question, Lindsay, if you can answer. Where the purple goes out into McGuire Road right there?
Now, what is that?
Here?
Yeah. Why is that subdivision going out into the street?
I am not entirely sure of
My
that.
guess is it's just a mapping glitch.
Oh, okay. All right, okay. So, and so then, if the developer is going to give up the right-of-way going north on McGuire Road, my question to staff is it going to turn out to be something like Idaho Street was, where it's curving all along there as we annex in these parcels on the west side of the road?
More than likely, that as pieces choose to basically make themselves eligible for potential annexation by applying, if they were to be annexed, you would probably get whatever piece that was annexed, those improvements established. That's one of the issues with 5-acre lots around the periphery is it's tough to consolidate a bunch of 5-acre lots and come in all holistically. And so you end up with a period of time that's incrementally uncomfortable, but eventually over time remedies itself. It's just not always a quick transition. We hear rumors that maybe some people directly nearby may be desiring here in the near future to come along with. That'll make that segment clearer on the west side, since the east side's improved with Montrose. But as you go from here south, there may be some time. Now that with development encourages other development as well. So there's just factors to be thought out as you guys are contemplating the timing and the discretion along with it.
And so just to be clear with that map that's sitting up there, a lot of those parcels that are on the west side of McGuire Road are in the county right now, but they are designated in the future in the area city impact of Post Falls. So what that is representing is, that is where Post Falls is going to grow to. The city of Post Falls is going to eventually, those pockets in the county are going to eventually not be there anymore. Maybe not in my lifetime, but as far as the city staff and the planners at the city are concerned, that's all going to be in the city limits.
Yeah, and I would like to clarify that it's not just the planners in the city, it's not just the city of Post Falls. This was the ACI is a shared ACI agreement between Kootenai County, Rathdrum, Hayden, a little bit of Coeur d'Alene, and then, so there was a county-wide approach that was done to saying, okay, what's going to stay in the county, what's going to go in the city, how are we going to service it? Nobody knows the time of any of this, but if it came into a jurisdiction, where does it make sense? In some areas, we're far enough out that was in what's considered a shared tier. So that's kind of an unknown area. The ACI agreement's been thought to be revisited. It was attempted a few years ago, but as of right now, we have the agreement that's in place.
And so do you agree with the one gentleman that spoke that if somebody looks on the city website or comes and talks to the planners, that they can expect that would be annexed if they're looking at this material? Would a developer expect that?
I think that's a subjective viewpoint. Ultimately, I would default to state code saying that the annexation it's your right to view that and take all matters in hand and weigh those as far as the appropriate timing.
John, the lots to the west.
Yes.
That are developed. Keep going, yeah. On just to the west of you, left of that.
Over here?
Mobile homes.
Is that mobile homes?
Yeah, that's, yep.
Those are in the county,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Those are in the county too, correct?
Correct. Now, to clarify your comp plan question we are currently working on an amendment of which taking an area like this is a great example, some additional policies of where would different types of residential densities be appropriate or not be appropriate versus currently we have it just designated residential with more subjectivity or ambiguity a little bit. Not clearly. I mean, we have policies that state certain things. You want residential, higher densities near your higher classified roadways and whatnot, but we can improve on that.
Yeah. Steve, you have a question?
Yeah, now, if the property was annexed, are we able to designate the zoning at this time, or would that come at a later meeting?
So that's part of this hearing. So tonight, you're considering two items. The first would be whether or not to annex the property. If you determine to annex the property, then you would assign a zoning district to the property. The applicant has requested R2 zoning. The Planning Commission recommended R1 zoning.
Al, do you have another question?
Well, not really a question. I guess just more or less a comment. Whenever I think about annexation, I think of three things. I say, why should the city grow? What's the benefit to growing more? And then where if we're going to grow, where do we want to grow? Of course, we have a lot of infill pockets, so that's one of the areas where we do want to grow. And then the how, and that's kind of the zoning, and that is, if we decide that, yeah, we're ready to grow, and we've got some place that we want to grow, then how are we going to grow in that particular area? I guess when I looked at this myself, for one, I go back to the compelling reason why we need to grow right now. We have a lot of developable land within the city limits right now. We have a variety of different types of land that's to be developed, multifamily, single family, it's already out there, ready to go. And kind of the where, to me, it does come back to the people that it impacts the most. And even though they're not citizens of the city, it still has an impact on those people around it. So I would move that we deny this request for annexation.
You have a second?
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion? Shannon, please take the roll.
Borders,
Aye.
Anthony,
No.
Malloy,
Nay.
Wolf,
Aye?
Thorson,
Nay.
Wilhelm,
Nay.
4-2? Is that correct?
Yep.
that is 4
The
to
mo-
2 nays.
Nay. So the motion to deny the annexation fails. Is there another motion to come?
I would move to approve the Grossglauser annexation file ANN-0006-2018,
Second.
and that the designated zone be R2.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion? Shannon, please take the roll.
Thorson,
Aye.
Wolf,
No?
Malloy,
Nay.
Anthony,
Nay.
Borders,
Nay.
Wilhelm.
Aye.
Motion fails. Is there another motion to come forward?
Move to approve the annexation and that the associated zoning be R1.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion? Please take the roll.
Borders,
Aye.
Wilhelm,
Aye.
Wolf,
Nay?
Malloy,
Aye.
Anthony,
Aye.
Thorson,
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. So the motion that was approved was for annexation within R1 zoning. Thank you very much. Next item up is the public hearing on the Quarry Drive vacation. And with that, I will wait a minute.
Take 3 minutes.
Yeah, let's take 5 minutes.
clear the audience up.
Call the meeting back to order. Thanks for the patience and allowing the quick break. Next item up is a public hearing dealing with Quarry Drive vacation.
Let me,
And are you okay, Warren, if we go?
I'll be right with you.
With that, I'll open the public hearing. Lindsay?
Hello again, here for the Quarry Drive vacation. Owner Chad Smith and applicant as well. He's requesting to review and approve the requested vacation for a portion of Quarry Drive located within the Boulder Court subdivision. This vacation is here in the Hatch. It's located just north of Celtice on Boulder Court here. We have some storage units here that are going in right now. The Boulder Court, I'm sure everybody's seen those going on, and we've got North Pleasant View Road right here. This is the vacation exhibit, so essentially a map of where it is. As you can see here, it looks to be just a partial road that was slated for any future development that might need it on this easterly half here. They're putting in storage units all the way to the property line, so there will be no road needed for that development. The applicant and the other adjoining property owners to the north and south. So they'll essentially split this right-of-way in half. And so one will get the north side, one will get the south side. Staff didn't have any issues with what is proposed, and the easements may assist with the future development of those two vacant parcels just north and south of the right-of-way. It conforms with the development plans for this area. And as I said earlier, the recent development on this site does not require access or extension of Quarry Road for those rights of way. We did route all of these agencies and received agency responses, from Kootenai County Fire and Rescue and Post Falls Police Department, who were both neutral on it. I'll stand for any
Questions of Lindsay on this one? Al?
Lindsay?
Yes.
Did we talk to the landowner that that's putting up the storage units?
We spoke with them at time of their site plan review for their storage units, and there was no need for the extension of Quarry Drive. If it were there, they would have needed it for, say, fire safety or something of those sorts.
But have we talked to them in regards to the vacation?
Staff did not talk to them, no. I'm not entirely sure if the property owners talked to them.
Okay. My only concern is, yes, there are storage units going in there now.
Correct.
But if somewhere down the road, that landowner said, you know what, storage units aren't going, I'm just going to tear them all down, I'm going to put in houses, thinking that Quarry was supposed to be there and he was going to have access to that.
Actually, I might have misspoke. I believe they were notified.
Okay.
Let me double check. Hold on.
Take your time.
She doesn't have to put
It's the
on
Mondayest
glasses.
Tuesday ever. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it's residential. I thought I seen something.
We
about
did
it.
notify neighboring properties that the vacation was happening, and we didn't receive any comments.
Yeah.
I'm good.
I apologize for that mix-up there.
No, it's fine.
We don't have very many road vacations, so.
That was my only concern.
And that would be the staff report and the proponent, is that correct?
That's correct, that's it.
Do we have anybody wishing to testify?
We have none.
I'm going to make the rash assumption that you're not going to rebut what you said.
No, sir.
With that, I will close the public hearing. Council, how would you like to act?
I would move to approve the Quarry Drive vacation file number VACA 00022018.
Second.
Motion second, further discussion. Shannon, please take the roll.
Anthony?
Aye.
Malloy?
Aye.
Wolf?
Aye.
Thorson?
Aye.
Wilhelm?
Aye.
Borders?
Aye.
Motion passes. Mr. Wilson, you have a comment?
Mayor Jacobson, in the interest of people's time, the hearing on the subsequent user fee tonight, the applicant just became aware of an agreement that impacts that subsequent user fee. I found out about it about 4 o'clock this afternoon. They've asked that the hearing be canceled so they get a chance to review the agreement, see how it impacts the request for a fee. I think given that we just found out about it, that makes some sense. They've offered to pay for re-notification for a new hearing. We have a couple of people that signed up. I know that's after the budget hearing, but I didn't want to have people sit around here if we're going to cancel the hearing. So I thought I'd bring that up now and see if the council wanted to essentially amend the agenda, cancel the hearing for tonight.
Council, how would you like to act on that?
Is it your recommendation that we cancel and reschedule?
Yeah, like I said, I read the agreement late this afternoon for the first time. The applicant just saw it for the first time after he arrived here tonight. And so he'd like to meet with the other party to the agreement and make sure that both parties understand the implications of what the agreement called for.
Yeah.
I move that we amend the agenda and remove that item from
To
the
cancel the hearing for the
subsequent user.
Yeah, subsequent user fee.
Public hearing.
Second. Motion second. Further discussion. Shannon, please take the roll.
Wolf.
Aye.
Thorson.
Aye.
Wilhelm.
Aye.
Borders.
Aye.
Anthony.
Aye.
Malloy.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. For those who are here to testify on that, thanks for your patience. I think it makes sense to do it right, and we'll do it after both sides have had an opportunity to review the agreement. Next item up is public hearing on the fiscal year 2019 budget. That'll open the public hearing.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. This is the second budget hearing after the first one we had at the last council meeting. So I wanted to go over the highlights of the budget I'm proposing for fiscal year 19. I want to start in the general fund. General fund, we'll have some additional requests later on in the presentation, but I just want to do a side-by-side comparison of fiscal year 19 versus the current budget year that we're in. General fund department expenses for 19 are going to be up a little over $1 million proposed for fiscal year 19. The dedicated funds that we have for the general fund are the personnel pool and also the annexation fees. Those are the general fund dedicated accounts, which brings the total of general fund expenditures to not quite an increase of $2 million proposed for fiscal year 19. Special revenue accounts are going to be, the proposed budget for 19 has decreased. What the special revenue accounts are for insurance purposes, 911, and drug seizure money. We separate those funds into separate accounts from the general fund because they have different spending purposes. Going on to the capital projects fund, there's a major increase compared to in fiscal year 18, and the reason being so is the capital projects are the impact fees. We've collected them over the years, and now fiscal year 19 we have some projects slated to be completed. Debt service are the LIDs, and the enterprise funds we continue to have the capital expenditures for the wastewater treatment plant that are proposed for fiscal year 19, and those are going to be some substantial increases. So what we have talked about at some of the budget workshops and also at the last budget hearing was what were additional requests for the general fund. We have 2 domestic violence advocates, an emergency communication officer. We're asking that council approves a community development director, GIS technician. In the parks department, we're asking for a parks planner, and we have some equipment replacements. I want to note that also that the amounts requested for the positions include benefits as well. Parks, we're asking for a ticketing system of $55,000, a seasonal park worker, and capital improvements. We have vehicle replacements, which we try to fund as vehicles depreciate. We want to make sure we have enough in reserve so when it comes time to purchase new vehicles, we have that money set aside. And also for the streets department, we are going to go this year with 4 loaders, which plows and snow gates. We're going to try those out this year and see how those work out. And after hearing 2 budget workshops, last budget hearing, and the second budget hearing, we should have
Clarification, just for clarification purposes, the budget that we are considering has a 0% increase.
The budget that I'm bringing forward that is presented to council has a 0 property tax increase. Correct.
Questions, Jason?
I guess we can't do anything now. No questions.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Anyone wishing to testify?
We have none.
I will close the public hearing. Council, how would you like to act?
I would move to approve the fiscal year 2019 budget.
Second.
Motion
An
second.
ordinance later on the agenda for this tonight.
Thank you.
I rescind my second.
I'll rescind my request for action. Thank you very much. Thanks, Jason. Next item up is unfinished business, Beyond Green Inc. easement request.
So I'm pinch hitting tonight for John, who's not here, so you'll have to bear with me. This is not my forte. I don't really speak about wastewater issues very often. I know that Jeremy is here to speak on behalf of the applicant who's requesting the easement. When we presented this item to council, let's say 2 council meetings ago, there was some questions regarding the ability to go underground with the easement for the high voltage electrical line. There was also some questions regarding valuation. Since that time, the applicant has provided us information about the increased cost for going underground, as well as some of the safety issues that go along with that, as well as they hired an appraiser to look at the property and provide an appraised value for what the easement was worth. That's the number that is included in your staff report. So happy to answer any questions to the extent that I can. Like I said, Jeremy's here also on behalf of the applicant who can provide any more information. From there, I'll answer any questions.
I'd just like to comment, I did take a look at the appraisal. Columbia Valuations did the appraisal. They're well known, do a good job. I thought their information that they provided was very, very appropriate, very good. So I always like to look at the appraisal. I had no issues with what they came up with, so I just wanted to comment on that. Anybody have further questions?
And that is the 76,400.
That's correct.
That's what we get.
I was the one that had the primary questions, I guess, that wanted information back. The information included in the packet was extremely helpful, thanks to whoever put that in there. It gives a lot better idea of the actual scope of what putting these lines underground would do. Personally, I want lines to be underground. Even more so, I don't want to unduly inhibit economic development. And in this case, with the information I now have, with the effects on the lifespan of the facilities, with the effects on the maintenance, et cetera, the sheer cost of it, the vaults those are pretty impressive structures that have to go in. Anyway, I believe that now I believe this request would indeed unduly restrict economic development, and the information to be able to come up to that judgment is greatly appreciated. So thanks for whoever included that.
Steve?
Yeah, that information we got from Xcel Energy overhead versus underground was especially informative, so I appreciate looking at that. And it kind of showed to me that if by putting it underground, you would really limit the other companies that could use it for the easement for different, maybe fiber optic or different things, that it seems like it would limit it. So overhead makes sense to me after looking at that project. And the cost, it's just kind of a no-brainer on that. So.
Well, I'll share Mr. Malloy's comments. Personally, I hate overhead lines, but I would agree. I think when you look at the cost versus benefit, the potential danger of being underground, I think this one, and the positive impact of economic development, I think this one makes sense. So. We would need a motion.
I would move that we accept the easement as presented.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion. Janet, please take the roll.
Thorson.
Aye.
Wilhelm.
Aye.
Borders.
Aye.
Anthony.
Aye.
Malloy.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, the proponents and staff for providing the information, getting all that information to us. It was very helpful. Next item up is citizens' issue, and this section of the agenda is open for citizens wishing to address the council on city matters that are not on the agenda. Mr. Flowers.
Bob Flowers, good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. I was going to sit silent tonight, but I was told by my wife I better speak up. She knows that the moratorium is gone on those solar lights, signal lights that flash when the pedestrians are going across the streets and that, since you put one in front of the school over here on Celtice. Oh, we're asking once again that down there on Celtice, by the donut shop, as well as, there's 2 spots down there that have pedestrian crossings that are really hard to see. And I know the city tried, and they put a little people walking sign up there and that. But as the season goes and the trees grow out and everything, you know, people aren't paying as close attention, somebody could get run over there. There's a lot of kids, a lot of younger people that walk up and down Celtice quite a bit. They cross over to McDonald's, they cross over to the donut shop, they go over to the sub shops, they do all that. And what I'm requesting is that the city look at putting those signals in place at those 2 pedestrian crossings down there on East Celtice. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Flowers. Engineering, you'll take a look. Thank you very much. Anyone else? Next item up is new business, and tonight Mr. Davis, is Chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission, is going to address us on the Planning Commission's oath of office and code of ethics. Mr. Wilson, you going to start, or?
So I'll introduce this a little bit. We had some questions a couple of months ago regarding conflicts of interest, and on the Planning Commission met a couple of workshop meetings to work through those issues and put together a code of ethics to speak to that. And Ryan Davis is from the Planning Commission. The chairman is here to speak to that.
Welcome, Mr. Davis. You just couldn't stand having a Tuesday night off.
Absolutely not. Glad to be here, Mayor, Council. Ryan Davis, Post Falls City Planning Commission Chair. Just wanted to share real briefly. In essence, what we've done is we've taken pre-existing policy and put it to paper. I mean, these are things that we've already prided ourselves on, but particularly with Code of Ethics, item number 10 that deals with what we would classify as perceived conflict. We spent a great deal of time looking at that and understanding that we're going to have commissioners that might be a part of small firms. How do we best handle that in order to be as transparent as possible? So after several meetings and a great deal of time and work, particularly with legal counsel and city, we put together what we felt was a good piece. So I would stand for questions if anyone had any.
It was in our packet. Anyone have any questions of Mr. Davis?
I just have one question for Mr. Davis on this. My biggest concern is that we need people on planning and zoning that are in the business.
Mm-hmm.
And just through your discussions, was there a feeling amongst the group that, you know what, if I had it to do over again based on this, I wouldn't be on planning and zoning?
No, I would say that there has been some communication of, it definitely doesn't promote business for those individuals, but I think that but by and large, they feel that their service to the community is vital for this piece. And when we went through, particularly with item number 10, it says to the extent possible. We understand that there are going to be special cases. We recognize that it's a small community, so I think we spent a lot of time dealing with individuals to say, hey, is this a possibility? If this isn't a possibility, could someone else speak for you? So there was a lot of time, but I think, to be completely honest and not to brag, I think we have a very diligent group of individuals on the commission that really, at the end of the day, care about the community.
Good. So. Yeah, I agree.
Ryan, I want to thank you and your commissioners for the time you spend. And we had a situation in a neighboring community where one person made a decision because of advice that it could have been potential conflicts of interest sometime down the road. So I appreciate the fact that you folks have put this to paper, lined out what the Code of Ethics is, and I think it will help address those concerns. Some of the concerns that have come up with the Planning Commission in the past, I think were handled properly, but people didn't quite have the right perception. I think this will address that, so thank you for your time on it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Warren, for helping get that put together. Next item up, ordinances and resolutions. First is the ordinance dealing with the fiscal year 2019 budget.
Move to place the ordinance fiscal year 2019 budget on its first and only reading by title only while under suspension of the rules.
Second. Motion second. Further discussion. Shannon, please take the roll.
Wilhelm.
Aye.
Borders.
Aye.
Anthony.
Aye.
Malloy.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Thorson.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you very much. Mr. Wilson.
An ordinance entitled the Annual Appropriation Ordinance for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2018, appropriating the sum of $66,917,900 to defray the expenses and liability of the City of Post Falls for said fiscal year and establishing kinds and levels for established positions, authorizing a levy of sufficient tax upon the taxable property, and specifying the objects and purposes for which said appropriations are made.
Move to approve the ordinance fiscal year 2019 budget to direct the clerk to assign the appropriate number and that it be published by summary only.
Second. Motion second. Further discussion. Shannon, please take the roll.
Borders.
Aye.
Anthony.
Aye.
Malloy.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Thorson.
Aye.
Wilhelm.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next up is the resolution.
Move to approve the purchasing policy resolution 2018.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion. Please take the roll.
Anthony.
Aye.
Malloy.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Thorson.
Aye.
Wilhelm.
Aye.
Borders.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Next item up is administrative and staff reports. Do we have any tonight?
We have none tonight, sir.
Mayor comments. Again, I just would like to, first of all, thank staff. I was criticized after a meeting 2 weeks ago for thanking staff for the work you did on the budget, but I think it's imperative that, we appreciate the efforts that you folks put into it. Number two, I would like to remind everybody that the little ones are out running the streets first day of school. Drive careful. Let's prevent any unnecessary tragedies. And then with that, council comments. I know we have a couple. Linda, you had one?
I've been getting telephone calls regarding the possibility of the Greens Ferry Bridge. And so I decided that Shelley and I were at the Jobs Plus Board of Directors meeting early this morning, and it was actually brought up again. We spoke to Glenn Miles at KMPO, and when I got back to my office, I decided that I would call the Post Falls Highway District and get the information straight from them since they are in control of that project. And so I'd like to just read what I have so I don't lose my place. The Post Falls Highway District, though named Post Falls, is a public entity of its own and has nothing to do with the city of Post Falls. The Post Falls Highway District is responsible for maintenance and construction of secondary roads in the northwest portion of Kootenai County in northern Idaho. There are 3 sub-districts, each represented by an elected commissioner. I spoke to Post Falls Highway District Commissioner today. He stated that the district is in the exploratory stages of looking into building a bridge. They are gathering cost estimates and etc. He stated that, as we all know, the district does already have right-of-way on both sides of the river where the old bridge stood. He further stated that there would be a lot of opportunity for public input, open houses, and things of that nature. And if the Post Falls Highway District does decide it is feasible, that it would need to go to the voters. If you have further questions regarding a possible bridge at Green Ferry, please contact a highway commissioner or call Ken Brownsberger, the road supervisor for the Post Falls Highway District, at 208-765-3717.
Thanks, Linda. Show you how old I am. I remember the old wooden one-lane bridge. We used to drive it all the time, so many, many years ago. Steve, you had a question.
Yes, I'd like to ask Brian Myers to come up from the Parks Department. We had 2 items on the consent calendar, the landscaping at Tullamore Park and the splash pad at Syringa. So I asked him, maybe give him an update on that and what things we're still planning on doing this fall and what would come in the spring.
Thanks, Steve. Mayor and Council, just giving a quick update on Tullamore, where we're at with the construction up there. As you know, we applied for grant funding to help offset some of the cost of the construction of that park. That was delayed slightly as we were waiting for federal approval on that, which carried us into spring instead of us breaking ground on it last fall. Since that time, our crews and our contractors that have been on that project have made really significant progress and have mostly caught us back up to what our original timelines were for that park. The contracts that were on this agenda were for landscape planting as it relates to Tullamore Park. We do hope to get significant amount of the plantings done this fall. We may have some of those elements that will have to extend into spring just based on plant availability this late in the year. Our landscape irrigation system is about 90% complete at the moment. Mostly that contract that was on the agenda about a month ago. All that's remaining on that is grade work, and that grade work is somewhat on hold, waiting for this landscape planting portion to be completed. Once that grade work is completed, you'll see hydroseed start to go down. We do hope to have roughly 90% of that park hydroseeded going into winter, and have landscape starting to establish so that that park will mostly be ready for next summer. The other elements that are underway are construction of the shelter. Our city staff is leading that effort with trades contractors doing the electrical and plumbing. The south shelter is about 60% complete. The north shelter, we have poles done and concrete going in right now. Future contracts you'll see on the agendas, we have a contract for splash pad equipment and splash pad construction for Tullamore Park. Those two items will be installed in the spring of 19. You'll see a contract for the playground construction that we're hoping to have constructed over this winter, as those elements can be installed in a little bit harsher weather environment than some of the other work on the site. Yeah, for the most part, we'll expect to see that up and running early to midsummer next year. And then the other item, Syringa Park splash pad, we'll see crews starting to mobilize on that as early as this week. Pretty tight construction timeline moving into fall. We hope to have the majority of that work completed by the middle of October. We have a 28-day curing window before we do our sealing on the concrete, and we have to have 3 days of dry weather ahead and following that sealing. So very likely that last piece will have to extend into May or June before we can actually finish up the sealing of that concrete slab. Other than that, the splash pad will look operational to the public.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, thank you.
Joe?
It's real short. We always have staff in front of us at these meetings and get the opportunity to give thanks and kudos where deserved. We rarely have members of other commissions in front of us, and so you guys put in a lot of work on a code of ethics that you guys could have been doing a lot of other things, but appreciate that the perception of the people of Post Falls is important enough to take your own time to be able to put those kinds of things together. And then I know some of your meetings have been marathon meetings, just like ours have been, and you guys don't get paid. So I just wanted to, we haven't fixed the glitch. So anyway, I just wanted to thank you while you're here, and the rest of your commissioners and the members of the other commissions as well for all the hard work they do. Really out of service for the community. We don't always agree on everything, but without you guys, this place doesn't run, so I appreciate it.
I just want to say I got home this morning from New York City, and it was really nice to come to Post Falls.
What was the temperature in New York this morning?
It was 81 when I was up at 3:30.
Yikes.
It was 100 yesterday.
Thank you all. We do not need an executive session tonight. The next motion is?
Adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Adjourn. Thank you.